I want you to try a little thought experiment with me for a second.
Okay, I'm ready.
Imagine you're looking at a failing, like a historically underperforming team.
We've all seen one of those.
Right. Morale is completely in the basement. The output is sluggish. Errors are piling up. And, it's costing the organization an absolute fortune.
It's a total nightmare scenario.
Exactly. And when you look at a situation like that, the instinct, well, the reflex, really, is to look at that group of people and think, wow, we have a serious talent problem here.
You just assume you hired the wrong folks.
Yeah. But what if you paused, zoomed out a bit, and realized that the problem actually isn't the people sitting in those seats? What if the real problem is the person who put them there in the first place?
I mean, that is a profoundly uncomfortable realization for anyone in leadership.
Oh, for sure.
Because we are, heavily conditioned to look downward when we diagnose underperformance. We scrutinize the individuals. We put them on performance improvement plans.
Right. The dreaded PIP.
Exactly. We critique their work ethic. It is far rarer and frankly much harder on the ego to look in the mirror and ask if management has fundamentally failed in its core duty.
Which is what exactly?
Well, it's identifying, placing, and training the right people for the right job.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even talk about the mechanics of placing that talent, we have to fundamentally rethink the role of the person doing the placing, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we have to completely shatter this archaic idea of the manager as an overseer and transition to this concept of the manager as a coach. Because, those are two wildly different jobs.
The distinction is everything. It really is. Because an overseer is fixated purely on the ultimate success or failure of a project.
Right.
They basically sit at the end of the assembly line, wait for the product to drop out, and then they grade it.
Pass or fail.
Exactly. But true performance, in any healthy organization isn't just about that final binary outcome. It's about the daily actions.
The day-to-day grind.
Yeah, the micro processes, the incremental progress a team undertakes every single day. Effective management is quite literally the act of enabling people to do their absolute best work by removing friction from those daily processes.
So if a team is chronically underperforming, the burden of that failure belongs squarely on the manager's shoulders.
It does.
I always think of it like, if a manager is functioning purely as a referee, they only blow the whistle when you make a mistake.
That's a great way to put it.
Right? They just stand back, watch you play the game, and penalize you when you step out of bounds. But a coach is entirely different.
Completely different mindset.
A coach is on the sidelines, observing your unique skills, studying your biomechanics, like noticing that you favor your left foot, and then putting you exactly where you need to be on the court to make the shot.
Right.
They don't just judge the play. They design the play around the specific idiosyncratic talent they have right in front of them.
What's fascinating here is the psychological shift this requires from the person in charge. To be a coach rather than a referee means looking at a spreadsheet of terrible quarterly results and saying, I built the environment that produced this.
Oof. It's a tough pill to swallow.
It really is. It requires a manager to invest significant time into identifying individual strengths. It means understanding that out of, say, 10 people on your team, you might need 10 slightly different management approaches.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
You have to provide ongoing, highly personalized support. You are no longer just managing a workflow, you're managing human behavior, which is infinitely more complex.
Which takes a massive amount of intentional effort. It is so much easier to just hand out a standardized corporate manual and say, hey, just do it this way.
Oh, absolutely.
But if we accept that the leader is the key variable here, that the coach matters more than the raw material, the result of changing that leadership dynamic should be pretty dramatic, right?
Oh, they are. The historical proof of this is staggering.
Tell me about it.
Perhaps one of the most striking real-world examples of this is the story of the USS Benfold.
The naval ship.
Yes, the guided missile destroyer. So back in 1997, it was widely considered one of the worst-performing ships in the entire United States Pacific Fleet.
Wow. Bottom of the barrel.
Exactly. The operational metrics were dismal, the morale was incredibly toxic, and the retention rates were just catastrophic.
Okay, so a total disaster.
Right. Then a former Navy captain named Mike Abushoff took command of the ship. And in just 12 months, he completely transformed the culture and the output of that vessel.
12 months? That's nothing.
It's basically overnight in military terms. It went from the absolute bottom to winning the Spokane Trophy, which is awarded to the best performing ship in the Pacific Fleet.
Okay, that's amazing. But here is the critical detail, right?
Yep. He achieved this unprecedented turnaround using the exact same crew.
He didn't fire everyone.
He didn't fire everyone. He didn't bring in an all-star team of naval prodigies.
Wait, that sounds almost like magic. I mean, how does someone walk onto a failing warship with the exact same people and suddenly they're winning trophies? What actually changed on a mechanical level?
He changed how they were placed, managed, and coached. Instead of acting as an overseer just barking orders, Abrashoff implemented systematic listening.
Systematic listening.
Yeah. He interviewed nearly every sailor on that ship, and he found out things like highly trained personnel were spending hours a day just sanding and painting the ship because the bolts kept rusting.
They're kidding.
No. So what does he do? He replaced the bolts with stainless steel.
Oh, wow.
Right. He didn't just tell them to work harder. He removed the systemic blockers that were draining their morale. He found out what people were naturally good at outside of their official rank and gave them ownership over those specific microprocesses.
So he aligned their daily tasks with their actual competencies.
Exactly.
It's incredible what happens when you stop fighting the natural grain of your talent. It actually reminds me a lot of the 2007 hit sports film Chak De India.
Oh, yes. Perfect example.
On the surface, it's a movie about a fractured, ordinary, totally uninspired women's hockey team. But underneath, it's a masterclass in the exact same mechanics Abrashoff used.
It is a phenomenal study in group dynamics and conflict resolution.
Right. And it perfectly illustrates the how of coaching. You have this brilliant coach who steps in and doesn't just drill them on hockey fundamentals.
He digs deeper.
Yeah, he understands the underlying psychological friction between the players. For example, when you have two-star forwards who refuse to pass to each other because of ego.
An overseer would just bench them.
Exactly. But a coach structurally places them in high-stakes situations on the field where their individual success absolutely requires cooperation.
He forces a behavioral change through environmental design.
Yes. He molds them into champions by finding where they naturally excel and placing them there.
Yeah.
It is so surprisingly accurate to real-world management that corporate HR departments actively use the film as a training tool today.
Because the underlying truth resonates universally, Whether it's a Navy destroyer, a hockey team, or a corporate accounting department, placing the right person in the right role unlocks performance.
It's universal.
And conversely, the cost of poor placement is just staggering.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Let's say you have a brilliant employee. They're smart, they're dedicated, they are highly capable, but you place them in a role that doesn't align with their skills. Maybe it's deeply administrative, but they are naturally highly creative.
We're going to hate it.
They will inevitably struggle, they'll become demoralized, and eventually they will leave.
And the financial impact of that departure is brutal. Like when you lose a good employee solely due to poor placement, you are costing the company several months of that person's salary and turnover and retraining costs.
Not to mention the massive immediate hit to the overall productivity of the team while you scramble to replace them.
Right. But wait, I have to stop you there for a second. The USS Benfold in the movie make for great, inspiring stories. But let's be real. Sometimes a bad employee is just a bad employee, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't always just blame the placement. You can't outcoach someone who fundamentally doesn't want to do the work.
That's a really fair point, and it's a vital distinction to make. Individual fit is absolutely crucial, and realistically, ensuring that fit starts long before they're placed on a team.
It starts at the interview.
It starts at the recruitment phase.
Yeah.
Yes. If recruitment fails to align a candidate's core values and baseline competencies with the organization, even the best coach in the world is going to struggle.
You can't put in what isn't there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You cannot manufacture intrinsic motivation if the core values are misaligned. However, once an employee with the right baseline is through the door, the primary variable remains leadership.
Okay, that makes sense.
Choosing the right person for a job involves finding where they can do truly meaningful work. Employees fundamentally want to make reasonable, recognized contributions.
Nobody wants to just sit there and fail.
Right. If they aren't contributing, a good manager asks why and looks at the workflow before they ask who can replace them.
Okay, so if the mechanics of proper placement are that clearest, find the friction, remove the blockers, match the skill to the task, Why is it still so incredibly rare in the modern corporate landscape?
It's a great question.
It feels like we should have solved this systemic failure by now.
You would think so. But the reality is that organizations repeatedly fall into hidden systemic traps when it comes to talent placement. And ironically, the most egregious errors usually happen with an organization's absolute best performers.
Wait, really? Which seems totally counterintuitive. You'd think the top performers would be the easiest to manage. You just point them in a direction and let them go?
They are easy to manage in the short term, which is exactly the trap.
I see.
One of the most common systemic errors managers make is leaving a top performer in a specific role for way too long. They become this load-bearing pillar for that specific department, and the manager becomes absolutely terrified to move them.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that happen.
Right. Another trap on the opposite end of the spectrum is letting rookies linger in entry-level positions without a clear path for advancement, causing them to completely disengage.
Just letting them stagnate.
Yeah. But the most damaging trap is hiding the best internal opportunities from current employees, usually because a manager doesn't want to lose their best worker to another department.
Let's dig into that, because
Right.
if I'm a middle manager, right?
Yeah.
And I have a top-performing salesperson, someone who is crushing their quota every single quarter, making the department look amazing, and frankly, ensuring I hit my own bonus targets.
Naturally.
Why wouldn't I keep them in sales forever? The old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
This raises an important question, and it highlights the deep conflict between short-term departmental KPIs and long-term organizational health.
Okay.
Yes, your sales numbers look great today, and your quarterly bonus is completely secure. But keeping that top performer trapped in one role, even a role they excel at, eventually stunts their professional growth.
They hit a ceiling.
Exactly. It leads to profound burnout or boredom. And critically, it deprives the broader organization of their potential.
It's like keeping a high-performance sports car engine stuck in first gear.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
Right.
It sounds incredibly loud and impressive. In the short term, you're making a lot of noise, but eventually you're going to burn out the transmission and the car isn't going to go anywhere.
Exactly. That brilliant salesperson might have the exact cross-functional insights needed to revolutionize your product development team.
Oh, true.
They might have the specific empathy required to lead your next generation of executives. By hoarding them to protect your quarterly numbers, you are prioritizing your immediate comfort over their career trajectory and the company's future innovation.
Talent hoarding. That's what that is.
Talent hoarding.
So if middle managers are inherently incentivized by their KPIs to hoard their talent and keep that engine in first gear, it makes perfect sense that human resources departments would step in to force the issue.
They try to.
Right. They try to institutionalize movement to strip the manager of that choice.
Right.
And that brings us to the exact opposite problem. Job rotation policies.
It's the dreaded job rotation.
Because on paper, job rotation sounds like the perfect antidote to talent hoarding. But in practice, it creates a completely new disaster.
It really does. It frequently becomes the ultimate systemic example of placing the absolute wrong people in the absolute wrong jobs, all under the guise of career development.
Just shifting people around for the sake of it.
Yes. If you look at many underperforming public sector enterprises or state electricity boards, you'll see a glaring pattern.
Oh, yeah.
These are organizations that often hold monopoly positions in their markets. They shouldn't be failing, yet they frequently suffer from massive inefficiencies, and a major culprit behind those failures is flawed HR policies, specifically poorly executed job rotation.
From what I understand, there are two deeply flawed philosophies driving these disastrous rotation policies.
What are they?
The first is this almost militant industrial-era belief that anyone can do any job if they're simply ordered to do it.
Oh, yes.
It treats human beings like completely interchangeable cogs in a machine, completely ignoring the biomechanics and unique skills we just talked about.
Precisely. And the second flawed philosophy is the idea that management is a generic, one-size-fits-all skill that requires zero specific technical background.
Which is just wild to me.
It's the belief that if you can manage a sales team, you can automatically manage a highly technical engineering team because, management is just managing people.
Which completely ignores the fact that domain expertise is required to evaluate technical risk.
Absolutely.
Now, to be fair, the reality of job rotation isn't always a disaster.
No.
In the early years of someone's career, it's actually wonderful. Like, if you hire a fresh graduate and rotate them through marketing, finance, and operations for 6 months each, That is exploratory.
It's highly beneficial.
It helps the employee find their natural strengths.
Yeah.
And helps HR map out a logical career path.
Yes, early career rotation is vital. The disaster happens when this policy is applied lazily or inflexibly to senior staff.
Right.
Let's look at how the timeline of this disaster plays out in practice. You have a junior employee who performs exceptionally well in a highly specialized area, let's say electronics design.
Okay.
Because they are so good, their immediate managers tag them as essential.
There's the talent hoarding kicking in early.
Right. They get exempted from those early career rotations because the department just can't afford to lose their output. So this individual stays in electronics design for decades.
Wow.
Decades.
Yeah.
They become an absolute master of their craft. They spend 25 to 30 years understanding every complex nuance of their field. But then an arbitrary HR policy dictates it's time for a senior level job rotation to, quote unquote, broaden their leadership experience for succession planning.
Oh, no. I see where this is going.
Suddenly, after 3 decades of highly specialized work, this master electronics design engineer is transferred to head a totally irrelevant department.
Like putting them in charge of a heavy machinery foundry or the production planning department?
Yes. With zero transitional training, zero orientation regarding the commercial procedures of that new department, and zero understanding of the physical machinery.
It's like taking a master pastry chef, someone who has spent 30 years perfecting the delicate chemistry of sugar, flour, and temperature, and suddenly putting them in charge of a bustling sushi restaurant, just because both roles technically fall under the broad umbrella of food preparation.
That is exactly what it's like.
It's a recipe for absolute chaos. The delicate chemistry of baking does not translate to the rapid precision of raw fish preparation. The chef is going to be miserable and stressed, the sushi is going to be terrible, and the bakery they left behind is going to burn down because nobody else knows how to work the ovens.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how these lazy, poorly executed HR policies instantly create a massive experience vacuum in 2 departments simultaneously.
Double the damage.
Exactly. The foundry is now being led by someone who doesn't understand the machinery, causing safety risks, morale drops as the workers lose respect for a leader who doesn't know the job, and massive production delays.
And the other side.
And the electronics design department has just lost its 30-year technical anchor, leaving junior staff without their primary mentor and problem solver. It is a lose-lose scenario manufactured entirely by rigid management systems.
And the human cost is just devastating. I mean, imagine being that engineer. You've given your life to becoming a respected expert, and suddenly you are made to feel completely incompetent in the twilight of your career simply to check a box on an HR compliance form.
It's heartbreaking.
It strips away the dignity of their meaningful work.
It does. Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of everything we've explored today. Today's managers, leaders, and HR professionals are in a unique position.
How so?
They have decades of corporate history to study. They can, and absolutely must, learn as much from the glaring mistakes of their predecessors, like these disastrous job rotations and middle management talent hoarding, as they do from the soaring success stories like Captain Abrashoff and the USS Benfold.
It's about looking at the full spectrum of management, the good, the bad, and the catastrophically misaligned.
Exactly.
Because when we strip away all the corporate jargon, the performance reviews, and the strategic roadmaps, what we're really talking about is an immense, almost sacred responsibility. If you're in top management or if you're an HR manager, you wield a profound amount of power over human lives.
You hold the power to literally build or ruin careers.
Yeah.
The decisions you make about where to place a person, how long to leave them there, whether you are removing their blockers or hoarding their talent, these decisions ripple out into their personal lives, their financial stability, and their fundamental sense of self-worth.
It's huge.
It dictates whether an entire company thrives and innovates or slowly suffocates under the weight of its own misplaced human potential.
That is a heavy crown to wear. But, it should also be incredibly empowering. Yeah. Because it means that personal agency is real.
Yes.
As professionals, as students, as anyone listening to this deep dive right now, you have the ability to change the trajectory of your team. You don't have to be a victim of archaic management styles or rigid HR systems.
And push back.
You can choose to be the person who breaks the cycle. Mm-hmm. You can choose to be a coach rather than just an overseer. You can choose to look at the people in front of you as individuals with unique, untapped potential, rather than just resources to be consumed, hoarded, and rotated.
It is a deliberate choice, a daily practice of observation, empathy, and strategic alignment.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. Take a hard look at your own team, or even your own career right now. Are you sitting in a seat that actually leverages your greatest strengths, or are you just filling a vacancy because it was convenient for someone else's quarterly KPIs?
That's a great question.
And if you're the manager, if you're the one holding the whistle on the sidelines, when was the very last time you actually coached the person, rather than just managing their output?
It's a question that could change everything.
Think about it. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.